Chapter from opening, the question, S001. Welcome to Blockchain Reparations, where we break our chains with blockchain. This presentation isn't about theory, it's about design and architecture. Blockchain gives us the opportunity to design a new system rooted in transparency, accountability, and community control. America created systems that transferred stolen wealth to whites for generations. This isn't about blame, it's about accounting. The original Constitution based voting rights on land ownership. Land ownership was not just generational wealth, but citizenship. Black families, especially those treated like property instead of people, were systematically denied human rights, voting rights, and generational wealth. What would reparations justice look like if we designed systems that didn't depend on our oppressors to repent for their wrongs? What if we made it right for ourselves right now? In 1862, the Homestead Act gave mostly white European settlers 160 acres of land. If white European is the American legal standard of human, then enslaved people were counted as 3/5 human. If blacks were allowed to read or taught math, then we would have known that in an unequal system, 3/5 of 160 acres is 96 acres. Instead, blacks fought to keep America united and were promised only 40 acres of land and a mule, less than half of what a person 3/5 human was worth. But after Republican President Lincoln was assassinated, when his Democratic Vice President Andrew Johnson became president, the Democrat reneged upon the Republicans' promised land to blacks. Black Civil War veterans were free to be homeless, while Democrats returned land to America's former Confederate enemies. Generations of white wealth were built upon blacks' stolen promised land. The Lincoln assassination and subsequent reneging on reparations cursed blacks with perpetual poverty, and cursed whites if blacks are God's chosen people. White Jews get mad whenever I say this, but just because I say the biological Jews and the Elohim gods and goddesses are black, doesn't mean we don't love you. Sometimes. Got to admit that betrayal and blackballing forces boundaries of self-protection, just in case the CIA sends secret agent lovers to stab me in the back. Now, after 161 years of delay, the Democrats offer a one-time payment of $40,000 as reparations. Reparations are to be raised from cannabis sales. Never mind that blacks can't smoke enough cannabis to pay us all reparations. Where in America, let alone on Earth, can blacks buy 40 acres for $40,000? We would have to exodus to Mars for our promised land. How do we cross the Red Sea into our promised land? Oppression enslaves people in a cycle of poverty, then requires those people to ask permission to be free. Where is our sovereignty to help ourselves? Blockchain is a technology that can break our chains without asking for permission from the grandmasters. We can begin the repair for ourselves, within ourselves, with blockchain and digital currency. Think of blockchain as a new underground railroad to reparations. Blockchain is a transparent public record system. Everyone can see it all the time, so no one can rig it. Blockchain is decentralized, so it's harder to hack or steal from than a bank. What is DAO? It's not just an old song by Harry Belafonte. DAO is true, democratic community ownership. No single gatekeeper, but all of us. A DAO is a digital cooperative. Members vote. Rules are visible. Funds move by agreed principles called smart contracts. What is most important about DAO is that blacks don't need to wait for a government to approve reparations. We can DAO for ourselves by ourselves right now. We don't need to wait for doors to open when we can build a bridge and open a reparations portal by ourselves. A DAO functions as a reparations nonprofit or mutual aid organization, like the Reparations Labor Union. It's legal to donate to nonprofits and unions. Think of a DAO as a reparations community trust. Each city, state, nation, or private organization can have its own reparations DAO for community-led reparations justice. Why do blockchain reparations matter? Because blockchain alchemizes reparations from asking permission to asserting self-determination. Blockchain technology gives communities the freedom to design their own Afrofuture now, instead of waiting any longer for governments and institutions. We don't even have to like or trust each other. Because after some Africans sold the diaspora into slavery, and some black Masons enslaved fellow blacks in the diaspora, then there's not a lot of trust. Blockchain can help us get over our own Auser versus Set divide and conquer mentality while building democratic systems that repair the lack of individual and collective self-trust. If people of African descent have survived some of the greatest crimes against humanity, then how do we go from surviving to thriving? Especially in the United States. After being reduced from the black mother of humanity to partus sequitur ventrum slavery of the black woman, after being reduced from 3/5 human to 1/4 of the land white Europeans received, after fighting to save a nation that stole our lives and liberty, then had the nerve to steal our promised land. Now the same party that stole our promised land 161 years ago offers us $1,000 per acre, even as the value of $1 is reduced by inflation. The math ain't mathing. This is not rebellion. It is architecture. Building systems our children can inherit with pride. Smart contracts are one of the most powerful tools blockchain offers for a reparations system. That means if the community agrees on eligibility rules, timelines, or funding structures, those rules can be enforced by the smart contract technology itself. No favoritism. No secret society changes behind closed doors. No gatekeeping. In a reparations context, this matters deeply because trust has been broken historically by a Willie Lynch system based on Machiavellism. Smart contracts allow blacks to rebuild trust within and between ourselves by using technology to ensure that the system does exactly what it promises. Smart contracts on blockchain become a mirror of Ma'at or Lady Justice. This is building reparations into the architecture code of our own matrix. Now let's circle back to digital currency. When some people hear the term cryptocurrency, they become afraid of scams and speculation. But digital currency itself is simply money that exists electronically, just like the numbers in your online banking app. The difference is that blockchain-based digital currency can more directly between people without needing banks or governments as middlemen that can stop our reparations money from flowing. We can use an existing global digital currency like Picoin, create our own, or do both. What if 2026, the year of America's 250th anniversary, is a Jubilee year? What did Jubilee mean for enslaved people? Biblically speaking, it meant no one could be permanently trapped in bondage. Leviticus 25:10 says, "Proclaim liberty throughout the land unto all the inhabitants thereof." That verse is engraved on America's Liberty Bell for a reason. America enslaved black Israelites like me. America could right its wrong against God and humanity by turning its 250th anniversary into a reparations year of Jubilee. But blacks aren't waiting for permission. Nations that deliberately mistake the identity of Israelites to keep blacks in perpetual slavery will be judged by God accordingly. Reparations is about truth and balance. Blockchain is the tool. The question is, who will help build the future now? If you are one, then join the Reparations Labor Union for free for a limited time at reparationsworld.com. Swing low.